Hello and welcome back to the channel. In preparation for winter wheeling, I've been thinking about recovery gear a lot. I find myself using my snatch strap, shackles, and shovel a lot when out with friends in the snow, and the last few trips it's gotten really annoying opening and closing the rear hatch all the time. When out camping, I have lots of stuff back there, and the recovery gear gets really wet and dirty. Without a truck bed to toss it in, it ends up getting my things kind of messy as well. I've seen a lot of videos where people mount gun cases to their roofs to store stuff in. For a long time I really wasn't a fan of it, mostly because oftentimes they were mounted semi-permanently using screws running up through the bottom of the case. So now you've got holes in your case, and in order to remove it, you need to unbolt and then still deal with the threaded post sticking up from the rack. I wanted a temporary solution. I don't want to keep it on my roof all the time. I typically leave all my gear in a tote in the trunk, but when I go out expecting trouble, it'd be nice to throw the case up on the roof and strap it down. After looking at the cases available, I noticed the Plano had strap loops on it. The cheap Harbor Freight case doesn't, and honestly I didn't even look at the Pelicans too long since they're out of my budget for this project. After seeing the strap loops, I got brainstorming on how I could build a simple setup to utilize either ratchet straps or cam straps to lash it down. Here's what I came up with. I knew I needed something to wrap the straps around, and my bars run side to side, so that wouldn't work. After a lot of brainstorming, I ended up taking some 1¼ inch angled aluminum in 1/8 inch thick and cutting crossbars out of it. I wanted it thick and rigid enough that it wouldn't flex, and the 1/8 inch material seemed more than adequate. I went with aluminum so I wouldn't have to worry about rust. I chamfered the edges and smoothed them out using some sandpaper before drilling holes required to mount to my rack. Alright, so we're at a good stopping point for now, but as you just saw, I took the angled aluminum that I cut down to the width of the crossbars, the distance between the two bars on my roof rack, in the two spots that I'm going to be putting them in, and I cut the ends at 45 degrees just to kind of give it a nice chamfered look. I took a belt sander that my brother-in-law gave me, and I used that to smooth out the rough cuts made by the Sawzall. And then by hand with some 220 grit sandpaper, I just kind of smoothed them out a little bit just to make them a little bit nicer. So now they're looking pretty dang good. The next step is going to be to measure where the extruded aluminum inset guide channels are, and drill some holes into the angled aluminum and then mount it to the bottom of the roof rails. So next time I see you, I'll be doing that. One of my criteria is that it had to be below the top surface of the rack. This is so if I use the rack to transport random stuff, the brackets won't get in the way and I don't have to remove them. My rack uses standard 80/20 aluminum crossbars that come with handy channels in them that you can mount stuff to. If you have a different rack, there are lots of ways you could do this, but for me I drilled 2 holes on each side of the new crossbars and mounted them to the rack using drop-in T-nuts and stainless bolts. It was easiest to remove the specific crossbars and do the mounting rather than fiddle with putting bolts in underneath the rack where I couldn't see. So now I have all the brackets mounted up and they look good. Clearance between the roof and the brackets is pretty tight on the inner ones, but the flex capacity of the crossbars shouldn't allow them to touch the roof. I still have plenty of room to get straps under it, but if I need to, I might take them off and trim it down. They don't need to be 1 3/4 inches. To demonstrate more easily, I threw on this orange ratchet strap I have. Using the loops, I fished it through. The straps are a bit twisted, but I think you get the idea on functionality. I think ultimately the ratchet straps will be overkill, so I'll likely just do cam straps. Here I've swapped in the black cam straps I have. They're harder to see but much more neat. Obviously it's way too much strap, so I'll make a custom one that's the right length without much excess. And you can still open the case easily as well. Jeez. Maybe limiting straps. I will probably remove all the inner foam, or at least most of it. I expect it to get super wet and gross, but I also don't want things sliding around too much, so we'll see. I have a collapsible shovel I plan to stick up there as well if I have room. Well, that about wraps it up for this video. So if you liked what I did, definitely let me know in the comments below. If you have any constructive criticism or better ideas, or maybe just a slight change that I can make to the brackets, definitely let me know as well. The brackets themselves are pretty dang simple, just angled aluminum, so very easy to remove and modify if I decide to go, a different route. But I'd love to hear if you guys have any ideas, and if I inspired you to do, something similar, I'd love to hear about it as well. If you want to get in touch with me, the best way to do it is on Instagram at GrizzlyPath, and on YouTube, the comment section as well works okay, but it's easier in Instagram. So with that, I'll catch you guys later. See ya.